Hey, what's up guys, Gamer1 here, and welcome back to another video. And today we're going to be showing you guys how to create the howl around effect purely digitally. Now, if you didn't already know, a couple days ago I released a Doctor Who title sequence for the upcoming Christmas special in the style of the classic 1963 titles. Now, if you haven't seen the original Doctor Who title sequence, basically it has this sort of swirling, surreal effect to it that was used in the first Doctor title sequence, in the second Doctor title sequence, and the third Doctor as well. Just this sort of swirling, surreal effect. It's pretty cool. Now, the way that they created this effect back in the day in 1963 is by pointing a camera at a screen that has the output from the camera on it. So pointing a camera at its own monitor creates infinite visual feedback. So if they move something in front of the camera, then it will be repeated infinitely, and it creates this really cool effect. And the BBC actually did a cool tutorial on how to create this, and in 2013 somebody tried to recreate the title sequence using original equipment from that era. But when I first set about trying to recreate this effect, I used the same technique they did. I took my webcam, I pointed it at a preview of itself, and moved things in front of it, but I couldn't really get the effect I was looking for. Just wasn't turning out right for various reasons. But I just couldn't get the effect I wanted to that way. So I had to come up with a new technique. And eventually I figured out a way to create that howl around effect purely digitally without any physical cameras involved. So I'm going to be showing you guys how to do that. So here we go. Alright, so first thing you're going to need is this piece of software right here. This is Open Broadcaster Software, or OBS. It's free. It's extremely versatile software. So, you know, go download it. It can do a lot more things besides this, but this is just one of many things it can do. So create a new scene. Here I have howl around tutorial scene created, and what you're going to want to do is add in a display capture, and you're going to want to make sure that the display you're using is the same display that OBS is open on. So if you have multiple monitors like I do, then you're going to want to make sure that you have the right screen selected. So I have added this monitor to my scene, so I am OBS is recording the same screen that it's on, and as you can see, it has a preview window here. Since it's recording its own preview window, we get this infinite feedback. But this isn't what we're going for, because as you can see, it's still recording these bars and these controls and the title bar up there, and that's not what we want. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a filter to this. We're going to add a crop pad filter. And what you're going to do is you're going to use these controls here to crop out this extra information so that all you're left with is just the preview window. So it's only recording its own preview window and none of this other stuff. Now, for my screen, I've already figured out what the correct numbers are. It's 850, 100, 850, and 820. Now this will be different if you're on a monitor with a different resolution. This monitor has a resolution of 3840 by 2160, but if your monitor has a different resolution than mine, then these numbers will be different. So if you're running a 1920 by 1080 monitor, which you probably are, then you'll want to cut these numbers in half. But these are what they are for me. And as you can see, now it's only recording its own preview window, and not, oh, I accidentally moved it to the side there. Hang on, let me re-center it here. And as you can see, this is looking pretty cool. It sort of looks like on Windows XP when the thing would break and it would do this. But anyway, but that's not quite what we're going for. So what we're going to do is we're going to add another filter to it. We're going to add a color correction filter. And what you're going to do is you're going to bring the saturation all the way down. And what this will do is it'll make it pure black and white. And the reason why we want it black and white is because when it records these colors, we end up with these shades of gray and all that stuff. And we don't want colors. We just want pure black and white. And if you are going to be colorizing your HowlRound, like in the third Doctor titles, the HowlRound was colored. But what they did is they just recorded the effect in black and white and then colorized it later. And so you're going to want to do that same thing. So regardless of whether you want it colorized or not, you're just going to want to bring the saturation all the way down to make it black and white. Then the next thing you're going to do is increase the contrast. Now, I found that increasing it to about 1 is pretty good. You can do more, you can do less depending on the effect you want, but 1 usually looks pretty good. So that's it for this. Now, if we get this infinite whiteness, we don't want that. You can just turn it off and then turn it back on, and it'll go away. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to need to actually create something to put in front of this, because now we have our infinite feedback here, but we need something to actually act as data for it to repeat, because we can't just, I mean, we could just draw something with our mouse, but that doesn't look very good. So we need to create some data for it to repeat. So for that, I'm going to hop into Adobe After Effects. You can use any compositing software for this. HitFilm works. I think you can probably do it with Vegas. Any compositing software you want, but I'm just going to use After Effects. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a composition first. And we're going to create a new layer. Going to make it black. And we're going to add a fractal noise effect to this layer. And what we're going and so we need to give the OBS some actual data to work with. So what this is going to end up being is the parts that are white are going to be picked up by the thing, and those are going to be repeated infinitely, and the parts that are black are not. So we're just going to mess around with this fractal noise effect here. So what I do is first increase the contrast quite a bit, and then you're also going to want to lower the brightness, and you're going to want to err on the side of having more black than you think you need, because remember, every bit of white here is going to be repeated infinitely. So if we were to have, say, this much white, then we basically just have a pure white screen. That's not what we want. We want an interesting combination. So we're just going to go ahead and lower the brightness and increase the contrast till we get what we want. And then we're going to keyframe the evolution. Let's go ahead and increase the evolution. And as you can see now, as time moves on, this thing will change and evolve, and will give us this interesting noise pattern for the effect to play around with. Now what we're going to do is create a new solid, and we're going to make it pure green. Okay, so you're going to want to create a pure green solid here. So then you're going to put the green solid underneath the fractal noise, and then set the blending mode on the fractal noise to screen. And what this will mean is that the black will be replaced by the green. And once you have the effect you're looking for, again, just play around with it until you get something that looks cool and interesting. And then you're going to go ahead and render that out. Now I've already rendered it, so I'm going to go ahead and close After Effects, because I've already rendered out a scene that I want. Go ahead and cancel that out there. Alright, so now you're going to add that to your scene. So now I already have mine created here, but what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that you have your noise file selected wherever you rendered it out. So you can see we have our noise right here. So select that, set it to loop, and then you're going to add some filter. Now I've already added them, because again I've already done this before. But you're going to want to add these filters to it. You're going to want to add the chroma key filter, and what this will do is it'll key out the green and make the green just transparent, so that it will be ignored by the algorithm, and then we just have this white noise. So you're going to key out the green using the chroma key effect. Then you're going to add color correction and crank up the contrast even more, so we get just this whiteness. And once you have that done, you can go ahead and just start it up here. And there we go. We have this cool sort of effect here. And this looks cool, but there's one more thing we can do to make this even more interesting. And so there's one more thing we can do to improve this effect. So we can go back to our monitor here, monitor 3, add a filter. We're going to add one more filter. We're going to add the scaling aspect ratio filter. And what this will allow us to do is it'll allow us to stretch the preview window that's being repeated. And because, and every time it's repeated, it's going to be stretched even more. So it's going to create this cool effect. So we can do that by messing with this resolution setting here. So right now we just have it on none. But if we change this to 16 by 9, as you can see, we now get this cool, oh, I need to restart it. We get this cool effect right here, where it sort of curves outward instead of just moving outward in a straight line. It'll sort of curve outward like this from the center, and it looks really cool. So that's, you can do that by using 16 by 9. Another thing you can do is you can decrease the resolution. What this will do is if you decrease the resolution, then every time the frame is repeated, it will be, I guess blurred out is the right thing to say, even more, because the resolution will decrease every time. And so you'll note that as these bits of information move further and further out from the center, they turn more into just blobs, and they lose their fine detail. And if that's what you're going for, if we decrease the resolution, you'll note that they turn, I guess, blobby even quicker. So we get less fine detail and more blob. And depending on whether or not that's what you're going for, you can do that by changing the resolution. You got a variety of resolutions to work with here, so you can change it however you want. Another thing we can do if we want a different look, because right now we just have it moving outward, but if we want it to say recede inward, we can select 16 by 10. And what this does is you can see we now have this sort of slit effect where the information is moving in and up to the center. And what this sort of looks like to me, it looks like the beginning to the second Doctor title sequence. So you just sort of get this slit scan effect that I think looks really cool. And that's again with the 16 by 10 filter. And if you want to exaggerate this effect even more, you can choose 4 by 3, and that'll give us an even more exaggerated effect. Or 1 by 1 takes it to a pretty crazy extreme. Effect kind of breaks if you use 1 by 1, but 16 by 10 looks really good. So again, just mess around with these settings until you get the effect that you're looking for. There's no real right or wrong way to do this. Just mess around with it until you get something that looks cool, and then once you have something that looks cool, just hit start recording, and it'll record it, and you can use it in your video, whatever you want. So just fiddle around with this. Hope this tutorial has been informative for those of you who are trying to recreate this effect. So yeah, my name is Sneakskin1. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please go ahead and like and subscribe, and I guess this is about it for this video then.
We'll be right back.